All right, thanks, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Excited coming off the bye week, which I think was really productive for us in a number of ways, but excited to get back at it here into Big 12 play. It was unique having a bye week this early, certainly, but I do think some benefits for us, a chance to take a quick back look at the non-conference games. How we've played, as we've talked about many times, we've had a chance to play so many young players, so a chance to kind of get back, reevaluate that. Also a chance to, as you start getting into the, 4-game territory for a lot of these guys, a chance to, after 3 games, to recalibrate a little bit and really get a good, strong evaluation of some of those guys and have plans here going forward. So, a lot of those can change in an instant, but we've at least got, I think, a pretty good game plan going forward with a number of those guys. Got good work the beginning of the week. Really got after it pretty good Monday through Thursday, and then we gave our players off the weekend. This is, for a lot of these guys, will be their main chance to get back home or to get away from it for a couple of days before we hit kind of this stretch. And so I gave our coaches a chance to get out on the road recruiting and got to go see a lot of players, so that all went well. And we're excited to be back at it, facing a new, very good Texas Tech football team. Coach Wells, I've gotten a chance to know him over the last few years. Very impressed, obviously, with what he did at Utah State. His family, his brother's also a very good coach as well. But he's a really good man, really good football coach. Was happy when Texas Tech hired him. This is, always an important game for a lot of reasons. I think, obviously being our conference opener, is a big deal to us. This conference has been tough to win these last several years. It will be tough to win again this year, and getting off to a good start there is certainly critical. And the Texas Tech's a very interesting team coming in. Defensively, new defensive coordinator. Guy came with them, is a very, very good coach, and a lot of guys coming back. The 2 guys that stand out the most would be 96 up front, so a heck of a player for them, probably the best defensive lineman that we've played up to this point. And then their middle linebacker, number 1, extremely good linebacker. And then, as in the same breath, probably as good a linebacker as we've played all year. I think a guy, Jordan, that's really come along. We've played against him several times, but those guys have done a great job with him. He kind of reminds me of kind of how Kenneth Murray's playing for us. He's been a good player for a number of years, but it seems like he's really taken that next step. It's been extremely impressive on film. Offensively, watching them, new coordinator, still a lot of the same things that you expect from Texas Tech. They got really good skill players all over the place. Their offensive line is a strength of theirs. I think they have close to, if not over, 100 combined starts with those offensive linemen, which is a huge deal, as we found out the last couple of years, and some very good players there. Quarterback situation's obviously up in the air, with Allen being hurt. Hope the best for him. He certainly had some real bright moments, but some tough breaks early in his career. But he's a heck of a player. I certainly wish the best for him and his recovery going forward. And know they've got a couple capable guys obviously behind with the transfer they brought in, and then obviously Duffy. So they've got plenty. They've got guys that can play. So we'll have to prepare for those 2 quarterbacks, and then be ready to try to contain them offensively. Only other thing I would mention, going into this, got asked about this morning on the teleconference with Callum Sutherland. We're obviously well aware of the situation this weekend. Extremely disappointed, in his choices. My philosophy on these deals is these guys, these guys live in the public eye. They take a lot of grief that a lot of people don't ever find out about. I'm not big on airing out guys' dirty laundry in front of the rest of the country. We're going to deal with it. I'm not going to tell you how we're going to deal with it. It's going to be handled internally, but trust me, it'll be handled appropriately and the correct message set on what we expect in our program. conduct that's expected, and when guys drop below the line, they're going to be punished. And so we'll deal with it, but I'm not going to sit up here and go through the laundry list of things that are going to happen there. So I hope that you would respect that. With that, we'll jump into questions.
Have you been looking at different things in the secondary, like Trajan Bridges moving over to safety? Have you doing anything differently than other people at the nickel?
Well, we wouldn't. If we ever move somebody, I got asked about this morning too. If we ever move somebody to a permanent position, I'm going to tell you guys, we have not done that with Trajan or anybody else. We're always experimenting with different pieces on our team at different places, but that's not something I'd be willing to talk here in front of everybody, including all our future opponents.
Eric Bailey.
Coach, I do want to ask you a two-part question. First about Jalen Hurts and just his running style and how he really is a patient runner and waits for blocks to develop and such. And then also I want to ask you about, he uses the word rat poison a lot when talking about things like the Heisman Trophy and statistics. Just your thoughts on his attitude towards those individual accomplishments.
As a runner, he is patient. He's got a good feel for blocking schemes, and you can tell he's carried the ball a number of times at this level, so he doesn't panic. Oftentimes young runners, regardless of what position they play, young runners, they're not patient enough for it, and he is. So part of it's patience, and part of it's just having a good understanding of what we're doing. And then I think for Jalen, Jalen didn't come here for individual awards. If that would have been the case, one, I wouldn't have brought him here, and two, he probably wouldn't have come here. He came here to win, and that's why he's here. He's made that very clear to me from second one, and his actions, from the day I started talking to him to right now have shown nothing but that. And so he cares about winning football games, and we've had some other guys at this position that felt the same way, and then occasionally when teams do well and guys play well, then nice individual things happen, and it's a byproduct, but it's not the main focus. Hasn't been with the guys we've had that position before, and it's certainly not with Jalen.
Barry Trammell.
Yeah, you faced Bowman last year for a half, and then he goes out, and Duffy came in and actually did some good things. What do you, if it is Duffy, which most people think it is, what do you expect out of him, and how is he different than Bowman?
Yeah, he's definitely more athletic, and so there'd be some natural things you would think there as far as potentially trying to run him more. The added advantage that Texas Tech's had. Again, it's never a great thing to lose your starter. I get that, but having 2 full weeks, obviously to know that, I'm sure has been a positive as far as compared to other times in the season that it could happen. So. Yeah, we got to see Duffy a lot last year. Obviously played, I think, a bunch against TCU, maybe on a Thursday night game when they beat TCU up there, and played, obviously, when Allen was out against us and a few other people, and played well. So, he's got game experience. He's a good runner. He's a very capable thrower. Probably one of those things, if you're in a situation like this where you lose your starter to an injury, you hope to have a guy like him behind him. So I'm sure they'll be very confident with him.
Aaron Evig.
Lincoln, there was a lot to like about Jalen, just even when he was in Alabama, obviously. And when you brought him over here, I take it you were pretty enthusiastic about his potential in your system. What I'm curious to know is, was there something you needed to, you sensed might be good here with you, but you weren't sure, and you needed to see for yourself, whether through camp or even 3 games here, to know, yeah, that's going to be good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I was interested to see, what his buy-in level would be. When you've had, 19 different offensive coordinators in your college career, and you've had, the majority of his career before he got here was successful. 26-2, and all the different things he did. He did at the other place. That he's had success, and so. When you come here, how much do you buy in to our way of doing things, and then making that transition from practice to game field? Do you trust it more? Do you trust it less? And he's He's done a good job in practice. I mean, he did certainly enough to win the job and give us confidence that he would do well. But I would say he's even when he gets in games, his trust level in what we're doing even maybe goes up even more than it does in practice. So that's been good to see.
Anything regarding his quarterbacking that he needed to show you?
Well, the trust is quarterbacking. You know, I mean I know that's not the fun thing to talk about, but I mean it's buying into your schemes, your reads, you know, playing the position kind of through this offense and playing it a little bit more free and open than I think he has in the past. So I think mentally he's in a place to where some of the things physically that he does maybe look better than what he's done in the past. I mean, it's just such a mental position, man. I mean, there's a million guys that go out there and throw the ball well and go out there and look great at 7-on-7. I mean, that's why it's sometimes for us, like through the recruiting process, not the easiest position in the world to evaluate. I mean, you see how many busts you see through that in the NFL years after year after year. I mean, so much has got to come together, and a lot of it is mental and being connected to your group and your coaches and what you're trying to do. And he's off to a good start there.
John Hoover.
Lincoln, can you quantify for us how the level of competition is going to step up for your defense when you get into Big 12 competition compared to what you faced so far, and how that's going to change, how maybe it gets more intense for the defense?
Yeah, no, there's gonna be new challenges certainly. You're going to play. We've played some outstanding individual players up to this point. I think we're going to play more just outstanding overall units as we go forward. And other thing I would say too is just the quality of skill position players that you're getting ready to see throughout this league. Where there's a lot of the best skill position players in the country, are on our schedule here in the next, whatever it is, 8-10 weeks. And so, we're going to continue to play good teams. That's why we keep saying, regardless of whatever results, regardless of what side of the ball, you've got to be taking steps forward. Because, maybe it helps you win a game, a couple of weeks ago, but it also is a factor as you go on down the road. Are you improving? Because you get in those big moments against really good teams that have really good players, it shows up. And you've either been prepping all along or you haven't. And if you don't, then those holes will show when you play great people.
Based on what you've seen then the first 3 weeks of the season and the open date, are you satisfied with where that defense is?
Not satisfied, but excited. Encouraged, excited. I think it has shown a lot of the positive signs that I would have hoped that we would have shown at this point. So excited about where we can go, but we've got to continue on an upward trajectory, and we just can't let anything within our control stop that momentum. We've got some momentum there. We've got to keep it, and we just got to keep building because, you're right, the better, worse, whatever, the challenges are going to be different. They're going to be different each week. We know that playing in this league.
James Hill.
Lincoln, the UCLA game, it seemed like your offensive line really came together. You get ready to go to Big 12 play. What do you think about your unit getting ready to go to the conference action right there?
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job. Kind of like our whole team right now. I mean, there's positive signs, but we're nowhere near where we need to be. We still had too many penalties. That's, of anything, that's probably, we've been productive, but we've got to do a better job with penalties there. They were a little bit different breed of penalties, and we had a couple the previous week that were either errors on our part or an error by some of our skill players that put them in tough positions. But we got to cut the penalties down, and kind of like the previous question, we're going to continue to play, different skill sets, different schemes, there's going to be different challenges, and we've still got a long ways to go to get to where we can be with that group.
Jason Kersey.
Yeah, hey, Lincoln. When you talk about, without getting into specifics, I'm just curious how often that experimenting happens in terms of trying guys who are offensive guys on defense and vice versa. Can you quantify just how often it happens and how those things go?
Probably more often than what the outside would think. you got so many skill sets, and there's so many facets to the game of, situationally, offense, defense, special teams, and we've always, encouraged our staff to think outside the box, and who can help us the most, whether it be any of those facets. So we probably have a lot more than probably people would guess. We probably have a lot more guys teed up, ready to play, potentially all three sides of the ball than other people might guess.
When you are as good as you've been on offense, is it ever hard to convince guys to give defense a try? I mean, is that just given the success that you've had on the offensive side of the ball?
No, I mean we've had a couple of guys here in the last few years that have moved back and forth, but I wouldn't say I've felt that as a factor. No.
Tyler Palmatier.
Like Charleston Rambo, when he redshirted as a freshman, he was a name that popped up a lot in preseason camp. And it seemed like, I guess, like a bit of a surprise when he did redshirt. Was he more difficult than normal? A guy could tell the way out of here, or did he seem like a slam dunk to maybe just have one?
We went back and forth on his a little bit. We did. We had some depth at receiver that year. Our guys stayed pretty healthy. We knew that he was probably good enough to play some for us and help. We also knew that physically he needed to develop. I mean, he came in here, he's always been able to run, but he was real thin, not very strong. And he's really changed his body, his strength, his weight, all that is up, and he's gotten faster with that. And so it's kind of one of those, like, man, he could help us a little bit this year if we have to have him. Let's have him ready to go. But it would do this kid and all of us probably a favor if we were able to redshirt him, not feel like we were costing that team too much. And he's like a number of guys over the years. I mean, even kind of like Creed his first year here, where it was like, man, one thing happens, he goes, and that one thing just never happened. But it was kind of getting ready behind the scenes the whole time. So I was certainly glad we were able to. And it made a difference because, again, those guys, I mean, yes, you gain the extra year, but what so many people don't realize is, like, when a guy's not playing, you can train him like he's not playing. You're not saving him for a game on Saturday. So, yes, these guys are practicing, but we train them like it's off season. And so the strength gain, the weight gain, whereas your current team, the guys that are playing on Saturdays, it's not you're not trying to make gains, but there's a level of maintaining, keeping them healthy, keeping them sharp. And you're not necessarily trying to make like monster strength gains during the season, but you just can't be that aggressive, where with these guys you can. And so it makes a difference in that, for a guy like Charleston, you talk about a consistent, like, full year period, year and a half of just straight off season. It just makes a huge difference in his body because he'd never had that before. And I think we're seeing some of the results of that right now.
Over here at Meyer Patton.
Back to Jalen. The old adage used to be like, Coach used to say, if you stay, you'll play. In other words, they didn't really like guys transferring. I know he's a grad transfer, it's a little bit different, but if you look around the country, Shane Buechele, what he's doing at SMU, Justin Fields working out at Ohio State, of course, Jalen here, are coaches a little bit more open to guys? Maybe transferring is the best thing. Austin Kendall starting at West Virginia. Does that make it a little bit more open up the idea of transferring to?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it started with, players being a little bit more willing to do it. I think the transfer portal's had an effect on it. And then, I think everybody adapting to the world we live in. And so it wasn't the cat noise, but it was something, huh? Nothing will ever beat that. I just think it's the world we live in. I think it's going to happen. It doesn't matter, what program you're at, how much success you're having. It's going to happen, and I think I think there is certainly occasionally guys that it makes sense for. I mean, that's we've had Trevor Knight's a great example here. I mean, after my first year, and I talked with Trevor after or before the Orange Bowl, and then after it, Trevor wanted to stay here. I mean, Trevor would have stayed here if we'd have said, "Hey, stay," but it wasn't the best thing for him. He had 1 year left, and I told him, "Man, you're crazy if you stay here. It would have been better for our team. You got a little bit better insurance policy if Baker gets hurt, the second year. But, it wasn't going to be the best thing for him. And, he got to go and play a year, and, and that went great for him. And there's a lot of guys in that situation.
Dave Levens?
Is this the week that you anticipate Kenneth Mann playing? And is he a guy, Lincoln, that can be a step ahead above what you have in there now? Is he that type of player, or is he going to have to come in and really compete with those guys that have been playing?
Yeah, we do expect Kenneth back this week. He was really, really close there really for the last two non-conference, but just we weren't quite ready to pull the trigger. Honestly, more from a timing perspective as far as ideal time to recover from the injury that he had, as opposed to he probably physically was ready. But we know we got a long stretch ahead, and so I'm glad that we were able to rest him. Then we really gained another week of it with it being the bye week. So it was, and I think some of the emergence of our young defensive linemen, being able to play snaps and being ready right away has allowed us to do it as well. So, it'd be interesting to see. It's going to be competitive. I know that. There's certainly going to be an opportunity for him. He's been a good player for us. But he's going to have to come back and earn the reps, just like everybody else. And we've got some good players there. We have some young guys that are doing some exciting things that are getting better fast. Kenneth obviously brings a lot of game snaps, a lot of experience, and he's going to be fresh and extremely hungry. So, we'll throw him in the mix. And I know he's just chomping at the bit. So, more defensive line depth, experience, quality players is never a bad thing. It's certainly when you're playing as many guys as we are right now.
Cliff Brunt?
Yeah, so, Coach, I know you guys talk a lot about maybe not being all that thrilled about execution. I'm looking at your running backs. You don't have necessarily like Adrian Peterson type of guy back there. You have an inexperienced offensive line, and yet you're second in the nation in rushing. So what exactly is working for you at this point?
We've been able to have some explosive runs, I think, in a lot of the games. I think that's been a big part of it. Our backs have carried the ball well. We've been able to keep those guys fresh, and so they're, extremely explosive. We've got some pretty good players in that room. And so, and then the other thing I would say is when we have had a chance to separate some of the games and we've put in our, younger, more inexperienced backs, or same thing with the offensive line, we've been able to continually still run the ball and produce, throughout the game. And so, and then obviously, with the rushing numbers, Jalen's added to that as well, with him being able to do a couple nice things in the run game as well. So, no, it's been positive. It's just not, when you sit there as a coach and you watch us and all the things we do and you see where we are right now and you think about where we think we could get to potentially, there's just such a big gap still that, again, the numbers would say there's been some good things, and there has, but it's so far from perfect. I mean, it's not even, we can't even see perfect right now. So we just got to keep battling. And again, kind of like, sounds like a broken record, but like the question about the defense or about the O-line, these new challenges are coming, and you got to be ready to do it each and every week.
What about Pledger?
What's that?
Pledger.
Getting close. Don't think he'll be ready this week. But I think the rest of the weeks are going to be potentially in play for him. Getting close, doing well.
Sam Brown?
Coach, it seems like to this point you and Jalen have shared this mentality of not being satisfied with what you guys have produced so far. And I asked him earlier this morning where they have improved, and he said it just comes down to playing more complete football. From your perspective, would you agree with that statement? And how do you go about addressing that and becoming more complete during a bye week? Is it as simple as just having more complete practices Monday through Thursday, or is there a little bit more behind that?
Well, no, I think there's specific things you target. As a coach, you try to break down, what have we not done well, or what do we need to do better, going into this next stretch of games, and you go and try to attack that. So, yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's with him. I mean, I think we do good things in spurts. We haven't been able to sustain it as long as we want. UCLA was probably the longest that we've been able to sustain it. So there is, again, the trajectory of it is positive, but it's just got to keep going that direction. And it's not easy to sustain it. I mean, when you talk about all three sides of the ball playing together against good quality teams, I mean, they're going to make plays too. And so anytime you can get that momentum, you want to keep it. And we got to recognize what we look like when we have it. And when we don't, we've got to learn to dig ourselves out of it a little bit quicker. And so that's what great teams, great players do. And so it's kind of you're just kind of always pursuing perfection, even though you'll never get there. You're trying to get as close to it as you can.
Brandon Drum.
You know, Lincoln, you have a rare opportunity to have 2 bye weeks. Obviously, this past week, later on this month, or the end of this month. On and off the field, obviously, it helps you with injuries and all that other stuff. But how do you go about doing that the second bye week? Because that's something you all are kind of used to as well.
Yeah. No, that'll definitely be different. I mean, it definitely helps from a recruiting perspective, number one, because it's multiple chances for us to get out and see the guys we want to see. And again, it's so different getting to actually see them playing games as opposed to going to practice or going and watching a lifting workout or whatever. I mean, this is the best evaluation tool that you could have. So that part's valuable. Yeah, and I think we're not trying to look at it as that we have 2 bye weeks. I think we're looking at it more with our team was, all right, we're 3 games in. Here's bye week number 1. Let's look at our team. Where are we at? What do we need to work on? What kind of rest do we need? We were able to crank them up pretty good because we're a pretty fresh team right now. And played many games. In those games, we've been able to play a lot of people, and so we were able to get a lot of work done. The next bye week, who knows what the scenario will be? And so we're not trying to predetermine too much, but we'll have a good, strong evaluation of our team at that point, and then just use that time the very best we can.
Chris Bill.
Yeah, Lincoln for months talking about defensive recruiting is all talk. There's nothing to show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those first 3 games, Grinch and Corey and staff were out this weekend. What was sort of the vibe that they got now that you've had 3 games to show these top kids?
Yeah, no, it makes a difference. I mean, certainly being able to, instead of all these promises and hope and hype and all that, that's, we don't buy into much of hype around here. It's you've either done it or you haven't, and I think our recruits have been excited about, the way we're playing defense, and the way our guys are playing, the way we're playing a lot of different bodies, the attacking style. I think it's the majority of the feedback we've got from recruits is it looks like what you guys told us it was going to look like, and so I think that's been positive, and our guys are doing a good job really trying to narrow down not only the type of players but the type of people that continue to bring in and continue to change that culture, and a lot of positive momentum. You keep proving it on the field, then the great ones will follow that.
Any more questions? Last one, Ricky.
Special teams, after 3 games, how your special teams been playing, and what do you see them moving forward into the conference?
Yeah, been real happy with our coverage units. I think we've really done some nice things there. That was a big emphasis coming out of last year, especially with our kickoff team. We didn't feel like we didn't have to cover too many, but we gave up too many big ones last year, and so been really pleased with our coverage units. Thought Reeves Munchau had a great game the other night. He hadn't had to punt too much, but when he has, he's handled it well. Hit some really nice kicks the other night. Great hang time. So coverage units been good. Return units, we've been close. We've done some decent things close, especially with the explosive returners we have. That's going to be an emphasis for us. I mean, we need to be a little bit better. Something we were phenomenal at last year. We need to take a big step here in this next set of games. Yeah, we're doing some good things. Again, I'm really excited about just kind of how that tandem of Coach Boulware and Coach Beamer, when we kind of dreamed that up. Now a year and a half ago, how it'd play out. Just excited about how that continues to work and how those guys work together and different experiences they bring. And then we've got so many guys on our staff with special teams backgrounds that it's a competitive environment, and that's why we've gotten better at it. So, but it'll be a big part of this one, certainly this week and this next stretch.